Joining us now is Alan Dershowitz, of course, constitutional law professor emeritus, Harvard Law School, author of so many great books, including his latest book, which is fantastic, The Case Against Impeaching Trump. He joins us now. Professor, I was thinking about my own time in college and law school, and, Lord knows what anyone could say about anyone at some of the things I was at, both at Dartmouth and at UVA. But to me, a person's career and long-time service, either public life or private life, should be really what you're judged upon. I think going back to college and law school and high school, and soon it will be preschool, this is, to me, it's just not the way to go about it. And I just think it's completely unfair. Been dying to talk to you. Go ahead.
Well, I think we have to have one rule for Democrats and the same rule for Republicans. The shoe on the other foot test has to be applied. The same rules that applied when Democrats were accused of this should be applied now that a Republican nominee is applied. And in fact, the Senate should have rules for all these things, rules set up in advance before they know who the candidate is going to be, so they can't just make it up as they go along. Look, these are serious allegations. They're allegations about a very, very young man who's lived an exemplary life. But in fact, they're going to be heard. On Thursday, she's going to be heard. She's going to be heard in open session. And now the question is whether this other woman who was a college freshman classmate of Kavanaugh will be heard. Her evidence seems very sketchy, particularly the fact that it took her 6 days to put it together, and she still doesn't remember for sure how she concluded it was Kavanaugh who did it. She has a vague recollection of him pulling his pants up. That's extremely circumstantial, and it's coupled with hearsay. But I think it has to be investigated, has to be heard, and I think many senators will agree with you that a person's youthful indiscretion should not be held against them if they're even established. There are other senators who will take a different view. Unfortunately, it'll all be partisan, and it'll turn on four people, obviously, Flake and Sasso, as well as the two women who are Republicans who are not on the committee. And so I think there are four people who are going to determine Kavanaugh's future, and whatever they want, they're going to get, because nobody wants to lose their votes.
And I just was remembering that Kagan hired Brett to teach at Harvard, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I knew him there. I mean, just to say hello at lunch. Everybody respected him. He was a fantastic professor. There were no allegations, obviously, of any improprieties when he was at Harvard. And everybody thought the world of him there. And everybody, I think, thought the world of him as a judge. In fact, his voting record and Merrick Garland's voting record are very, very similar on the court. So, I don't see him as a radical extremist any more than I saw Merrick Garland as a kind of liberal extremist. These are both kind of center-left, center-right, moderates.
Yeah.
If you were judging him based on only his court and adult life, you'd have to judge him extraordinarily highly qualified. The real moral question that every senator is going to have to reach is, A, what are the standards for judging an allegation of sexual assault? I think they have to be clear and convincing. It's not just enough for it to be by a preponderance, or you doubt, or you suspect, or you think. Second, if you believe that these events occurred, or some of them occurred, or may have occurred, what weight do you give them in the totality of circumstances? Those are the questions that I think are going to be raised, and I think reasonable people could disagree, certainly about the second. How much weight do you give to the actions of a 17-year-old? Now we have some allegations about him when he was 18, and, of course, Avenatti is coming in, which damages the credibility of anyone he touches, because here's a man who is, running for president. Oh, my God. And he's now become involved in this, claims he has a client, won't tell us the name of the client or what the client is saying, but he's muddied up the waters as well.
Well, when I was thinking about Starr, what Judge Starr said last week, I was actually surprised last week when he said, Laura, this hearing, the vote should take place on Thursday. He understood what had happened and what was going to happen, by the accuser then dictating the terms of the committee. So the accuser says, I have 10 demands, 10 conditions. 6 of them were granted. Now, it's a good lawyer because she has a good lawyer who's pushing. But it wasn't. Now, in retrospect, we all see, and Starr, he's just cynical, I guess. That's not a very nice person, very cynical. And he said, okay, guess what's going to happen? They're trolling around to try to find other people. Well, it could have been, I don't know, it might have been some party, I think some.
Oh, of course.
And then he said, this is what's going to happen. So once you allow someone to go outside the process of the 3.5 days of hearings and the many weeks of the build-up to the hearings, then it's going to be off to the races. And then you set a terrible precedent going forward. It's a terrible precedent. And I don't know who passes this test in the future. I really don't.
Well, I think the other bad precedent to set is to have rigid time deadlines that are designed to help either the Democrats or the Republicans. Look, a vote may come on Thursday. If she testifies and he testifies, and it's clear that the evidence doesn't establish any.
You really think this is about evidence?
Misconduct.
You really think this is people care about the evidence, Professor?
I think there are many who don't. Look, so many Democrats have already said we believe her because she's a woman, and there must be a sex-linked genetic predisposition to telling the truth if you're a woman, and a sex-linked genetic predisposition to lying if you're a man. There are people like that, and they shouldn't be taken seriously. There are people on the other side as well who said there's no way we should believe any of this. I want to hear both people testify. I would like to see the FBI certainly have in the past, continue its background check. They would normally do that. I don't know why they're not continuing. Background checks are ongoing. And,
right, but but Alan, they did it 6 times. How are you doing a background check on 35 years ago? But as a civil libertarian, I don't see how you come down on saying they should do another FBI background check, because a woman comes forward anonymously, no one corroborates it who was in the room, not a single person who she says was in the room, including a friend of hers, who's still a friend of hers, said that they remember the party, and one of the woman, her friend, said she didn't even know Kavanaugh.
And think of how much stronger that argument would be if it was supported by the FBI. If the FBI
it's not the FBI's job to do this.
Challenged it. It is to do background checks, and they do chase down rumors. I know, but there's new information. And when there's new information, you assess the new information. It shouldn't take a lot of time. Look, we're not going to know a lot more than we now know about the incident involving Dr. Ford, but we may learn some information about this other woman. And now, again, we have this.
So now have another delay? You're actually thinking there should be another delay and investigate Avenatti's person and all these people?
I don't think it should be delay in the hearing. I think the FBI should do a background check, and if they conclude that there's any credibility, there should be, so we'll put it off until Monday or Tuesday. The Supreme Court doesn't meet until the first week in October, and they can certainly go another couple of weeks. The thing is, the Democrats are fighting a losing game here. Let me tell you why. Because even if the Democrats take over the Senate, the Republicans still have until January in order to put through another candidate. And I suspect the president might appoint somebody like Barrett, who is an even more extreme on issues like abortion. So this may be very much a Pyrrhic victory for the Democrats. But look, it's such a mess. The confirmation process is such a mess. I agree completely with what you said. Who would want to be nominated today for a position that requires confirmation?
Oh, you know what I have to ask you?
This kind of thing is going on.
Yeah, you know what I really am thinking about, and I know they would never do this, but would this perhaps be a time for the justices to come forward and say, look, we have no position on whether a nominee should be confirmed or not, but we do represent the judicial branch. We are a co-equal branch of government, and we are very concerned about where this process has gone and what has happened.
We're going to hear that. I suspect we're going to hear that from Chief Justice when he delivers his state of the judiciary message. It would be perfectly appropriate for Chief Justice Roberts, who I know and have an enormous amount of respect for. Look, he almost always votes against my positions, but he is one of the most qualified people ever to serve on the Supreme Court. When he gives his state of the judiciary message, I think he should talk about what's happening to the process and how the process affects the judicial system, because it's going to keep good people away. That's the problem.
I'd talk about it now. I wouldn't wait for this. The state of the judiciary is in big trouble right now. I wouldn't wait until afterward. I guess they're going to be thinking it's political if they speak now.
I think that's right. You know, it's like the justices have to sit during the State of the Union message, pretend they're not listening, and fall asleep half the time because they can't stand up.
What about AMK? What about Justice Kennedy? Sorry, I always refer to them as their initials from my days at the court. What about Kennedy? Why couldn't he come out and say something? He could. He
could. Souter could. You know, anybody who's a retired judge has a perfect freedom to say whatever they want. Now, Souter still sits on the bench. I don't know. I don't think Kennedy will serve on the bench anymore.
Done.
I think he's retired completely. But look, you know, we go back to the good old days when somebody like Kennedy could get confirmed so quickly. Even Scalia was confirmed
unanimously
so quickly. Yeah.
He was unanimous.
We live in a very sad time when it comes to confirmation processes, and it's disturbing to constitutional lawyers like me. We have to argue in front of these judges. We develop enormous respect for most of them on the basis of their ability, and then we hear this kind of stuff coming out. I remember when it came out with Doug Ginsburg, who was a friend of mine, and he was kept off the court for marijuana.
Oh my God!
I mean, my God, President Obama, admitted his much more extensive.
Did he teach at Harvard? I can't remember. Did Ginsburg teach?
Doug was a colleague of mine for years at Harvard.
That's
we were
right.
friends.
That's
I
right.
supported his nomination, even though he was a Republican, because I thought he was eminently well qualified.
You got to get people, I guess, who were first in a monastery and then went. And then, like, the only people you're going to get are people like in a monastery. I don't know. Do monasteries have to have law schools? I don't know how you possibly get these. We're becoming such an open society, Alan, in so many ways. Now we're prudish. Let's not
talk about monasteries now, because there are problems there too. With every religious institution has its problems.
All right, we didn't get into monasteries. It's a joke. Don't take everything seriously.
It's a joke.
All right, Alan Dershowitz here on the Laura Ingraham Show. Thank you so much. We'll take a break. When we come back, the left's new standard of justice: guilty until proven innocent. Thanks for listening to this podcast excerpt of The Laura Ingraham Show. If you'd like to receive podcasts of our complete shows, go to lauraingraham.com and sign up to become a member of Laura 365. Our Laura 365 members get commercial-free streams and podcasts of our shows every day we're on the air. And also, you can listen to the last 30 days of The Laura Ingraham Show. Be ahead of the curve. Join Laura 365.